Hi everyone, good evening and a very warm welcome to Thorough Newspaper Analysis. This is the video for 1st of July 2024. Now let's quickly proceed and have a look at the pointers of discussion for the day. So first of all, we have the editorial segment, and here for today's discussion, we've taken up an Indian Express article. The title of this article is Explained New Crimes Under the Bharatiya Nyay Sanhita and Some Grey Areas. Now, we all know that the three new criminal laws, they have come into force as of today, 1st of July. And as a result of that, this article, it highlights some of the new crimes that have been added in the Bharatiya Nyay Sanhita, which is the law corresponding to the IPC. So we'll understand what are these new crimes, as well as the fact that there are some gray areas that need consideration. Secondly, we talk about the news updates for the day. So with that in mind, let's start with the article discussion with the context. So let's understand the names of the three new laws which are to take the old criminal law. So first we have the Bharatiya Nyay Sanhita. It is corresponding to the IPC or the Indian Penal Code of 1860. Then we have the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita. It is corresponding to the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973, or popularly known as the CRPC. And the third is the Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam. As the name itself suggests, it is corresponding to the Indian Evidence Act of 1872. Let's quickly start with the discussion around the new crimes that have been added in the BNS or the Bharatiya Nyay Sanhita. See, the BNS introduces a couple of new crimes, and one notable among those introduced or the newly introduced offenses is the offense which is covered by clause 69. What is that? It penalizes sexual intercourse through employment of deceitful means. Now, what is this offense about? Let's have a reading of the bare provision of it so that we understand its ingredients very effectively. So it provides for the fact that whoever by deceitful means or by making promise to marry a woman without any intention of fulfilling the same. So let's say there's a man and he has no intention at all of marrying a woman, yet he makes a false promise saying that, I'm going to marry you eventually. And as a result of this promise, that the false promise that he makes, the woman, gives her consent to establish physical relationship. And later on, the guy, he turns around and refuses to marry. So that is the offense which is covered in the new, this particular clause. So it says that whoever by deceitful means or by making promise to marry a woman without any intention of fulfilling the promise has sexual intercourse with her shall be punished with imprisonment. Now, what is the quantum of imprisonment? It is quite severe. It is up to 10 years and also be liable to a mandatory fine. Now, if you watch closely, you would see there is a uses of the term deceitful means. So whoever by deceitful means or by making a promise to marry. So let's understand what is the meaning or purport of this term deceitful means. Deceitful means it includes the false promise of employment or promotion, inducement, or marrying after suppressing identity. Now, there's a criticism as well around this particular offense. So critics, they are saying that this might, in some cases, end up criminalizing consensual relationships. Consensual relationship is a kind of relationship where both the parties have given their consent. Now, another big ticket addition to the BNS is the inclusion of offenses such as organized crime and terror. Now, a question may arise as to were these offenses at all not included earlier? So the answer here is no, because these sort of offenses, they fell within the ambit of specific, special, and in fact, very stringent laws. Like we have the UAPA, the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act for Terrorism. And as far as organized crimes is concerned, we had some state-specific laws, such as the Maharashtra Control of Organized Crimes Act, for organized crimes. So another addition would be what? The organized crimes and offense of terrorism. On terrorism, the BNS borrows heavily from the UAPA. Organized crime, as per clause 111, subclause 1, it encompasses, and I would like to quote it out, any continuing unlawful activity, including kidnapping, robbery, vehicle theft, extortion, land grabbing, contract killing, economic offenses, cyber crimes having severe consequences, then trafficking in people, drugs, illicit goods or services, and weapons, human trafficking, racket for prostitution or ransom. But vague descriptions such as cyber crime having severe consequences, it will have to be addressed. So this is another area of concern, that this is a very broad and to say it's slightly vague connotation or vague uses of the term, which needs to be defined, and which needs to be the area which needs to be defined. Another addition as far as a new offense is concerned is the offense of snatching. Snatching, it is defined in clause 103, subclause 1. It is a new crime. It is distinct from the offense of theft. Let's talk about the definition of snatching. It is, in order to commit theft, the offender suddenly or quickly or forcefully seizes or secures or grabs or takes away from any person or from his possession any movable property. So that is the offense of snatching. Both theft and snatching, it prescribes a punishment of up to 3 years in jail. The rearrangement of provisions in the BNS, it signals the legislative intent. So like the IPC, it starts with chapters which deal with general exceptions, followed by chapters on punishment, abatement, and the right of private defense. Offenses against the state comes before offenses against women and offenses against body. But the BNS, in the BNS, crimes against women, it comes before, in chapter 4, before offenses against the state. So this is a distinction so far as the arrangement of chapters and sections is concerned. Now that we've talked about the introduction of a couple of new crimes, let's talk about what are the changes that have been brought about in the procedure. So with respect to CRPC. So one of the huge or the biggest change that has come about in the BNSS, it is the expansion of detention in police custody from 15-day, the initial 15-day limit, which is prescribed in CRPC, to up to 90 days now in the new law. So according to section 167, subsection 2 of the CRPC, if you read it, you will see that it prescribes for the fact that an accused had to be sent to judicial custody after a maximum of 15 days in police custody. So the police custody tenure that was prescribed in this section is the initial 15 days. And within this 15 days, it could have been a combination of judicial custody or police custody, but police custody could not be granted past this period of 15 days. But when it comes to the BNSS, the time limit is extended to up to 90 days. Now in the CRPC, this 15-day period, it was intended to incentivize the police to complete investigation in a very time-bound manner and curtail the likelihood of custodial torture and forced confessions. And as a result, at the passage or the expiry of 15 days, judicial custody used to be granted. Now, clause 187, subclause 3 of the BNSS, it has deleted the word otherwise than in police custody, essentially thereby allowing the police to keep custody of an accused up to 90 days for all offenses which are listed in the BNS. Amit Shah, he said in Parliament when these laws were, under discussion, that the BNSS, it takes a victim-centric approach in bringing a tighter timeline for the completion of trials. The BNSS, it also states that in cases where the punishment is 7 years or more, so if the punishment is minimum of 7 years or more than 7 years, then the victim shall be given an opportunity of being heard before withdrawal of the case by the government. Another stark feature of the new law is trials in absentia. Now, what is the concept of trial in absentia? Let's understand that. See, it is a type of trial where a person who is accused of a crime can be tried and can also be convicted in his absence as if he was present in the court and has waived his right to a fair trial for all offenses. So this is another new introduction in the BNSS. And while such a provision, it already exists in very stringent and specific laws like we have the UAPA, the burden of proof, it is reversed in terror laws. Why? Because in terror laws, the onus is on the accused to prove prove himself not guilty rather than on the state to prove his guilt. Now, critics, they of course are having some sort of rebuttal to this provision. So they are arguing that the introduction of trials in absentia under the normal criminal law, it allows the state to forego its duty to properly locate the accused before the trial begins. The BNSS, it also removes the provision for statutory bail if an accused has more than one offences against his name. Under the CRPC, an accused could be granted statutory bail if he has served at least half of the maximum sentence which is prescribed for the offense. Now, this is my question to you. We've covered this section, I believe, 2-3 times in our TNA, which is the section of the CRPC concerned here, which says that if, let's say, the offense is punished, or the imprisonment which is prescribed for the offense is 7 years, correct? And the accused is the under trial has already served 3.5 years in prison. So then he is entitled to be enlarged or released on bail. What is that section? So this was a provision which is available in the CRPC. Now this was to ensure that trials do not take forever, and when they do, then the accused does not suffer continuous incarceration for no fault of his own. Now, this is how the Delhi High Court granted bail to JNU President Shahzil Imam last month. We had already discussed this in our TNA. Now, let's talk about the upside. Here we discuss some of the provisions which are a welcome and which were in need of the hour. So, among the key positive changes in the new laws, it is the introduction of community service as an alternative form of punishment for certain offences. These include offences like small theft, defamation, and attempt to die by suicide with an intent to keep a public official from discharging her duty. So while it is unclear how offences deserving no jail time, they were chosen with 3/4 of India's prison population being under trials, community service as punishment, it keeps first-time convicts and those convicted for minor offence out of prison. And we know how it is important for us as a society to make sure that those offenders who have committed offences which does not prescribe for severe sort of punishment or does not have very huge or severe ramifications for the society as a whole, because of course crime, it's considered to be a wrong against the state, against the society. So for those offences, it is always better to keep the first timers outside of jail so that they do not become hard and fast criminals by living in these behind the bars under or in the company of seasoned criminals. So this is therefore a welcome step. While it is so this we have already discussed, the BNS, however, does not define what constitutes community service. So this is something that is left to the discretion of the judges. Also, sexual intercourse with a minor wife, it has been brought under the ambit of rape. The IPC had carved out one exception to marital rape, which is the intercourse with wife who is less than 15 years of age. You can find this in the IPC. Now, in 2017, the Supreme Court had held that this 15-year limit, it was at odds with child rape laws such as the POCSO Act, where categorically, I believe Section 2D of it, it defines child to be somebody or a person who's under the age of 18. So there was a conflict with respect to that, and thereby the Supreme Court in 2017 held that this 15-year limit, it was at odds with the laws like the POCSO Act. The new law, it addresses the grey area that 15 to 18-year-old married girls fell in under the IPC. The inclusion of offences for mob lynching, it is also crucial, and it signals a legislative acknowledgement of such hate crimes. The emphasis on video conferencing of trials and the prescription of timelines for speedy trials, it should improve justice delivery, but their success will depend on implementation on ground. Now let's talk about the remaining gray areas. Also, I don't know if we've discussed this, but mob lynching, it has also been added as a separate offense. All right, so let's talk about the remaining gray areas which needs a certain sort of clarity or consideration. So among the big announcements made by the government on the three laws was doing away with sedition. Now, this was crucial since it came over a year after the Supreme Court in May 2020 Two, virtually stalled the operation of sedition law, deeming it prima facie unconstitutional. Now, despite the government's claim, the BNS has in fact introduced the offense with a wider definition while incorporating the Supreme Court guidelines in the 1962 case law of the case of Kedarnath Singh, which upheld the constitutional validity for the crime of sedition. The other big concern as the criminal laws are rolled out, it is the issue of penalizing rape in cases where the victims are male. The BNS, with a seemingly progressive outlook, entirely leaves out the contentious Section 377 of the IPC, which criminalizes carnal intercourse against the order of nature. In 2018, this is a celebrated judgment that all of us, I'm sure, are aware of. This provision had been read down by the Supreme Court in its landmark judgment of Navjit Singh Johar versus Union of India, ruling to the extent that it criminalized consensual sex among adults, including those in a relationship which is in the nature of same sex. Now, with this, we proceed to the national news, and this is the first update here. Jaishankar is to lead Indian delegation to attend SCO summit in Astana. The Indian delegation at the SCO summit, it will be led by External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. Kazakhstan hosts the SCO summit on 3rd and 4th of July, taking over from India, which held the presidency last year and hosted the 2023 summit virtually. If I were to give you some information pointers about the SCO, let's talk about that. So the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, also called popularly the SCO, it is an intergovernmental organization which is formed in the year 2001, and this happened in Shanghai, and this was done by the following countries. Let's make a note of these. We have China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. Next up is this update. Pench Tiger Reserve, it embraces AI for enhanced forest fire protection. The Pench Tiger Reserve in Maharashtra, it has added a new AI system to detect forest fires early. The AI platform, it is named Panthera. It is done at the Pench Tiger Reserve. It uses cameras and satellite data to report forest fires in real time within 3 minutes of detection. So this is a very, very efficient system if implemented correctly. RBI announces SAARC currency swap program or framework for 2024-2027. The Reserve Bank of India, it has implemented a new framework for currency swap arrangements among the SAARC countries from the year 2024 to 2027. The RBI's 2024-2027 framework, it introduces a rupees 250 billion INR swap window to support financial stability among the SAARC countries. Shivraj Singh Chouhan launches portal for faster bank settlements. The Union Minister Shivraj Singh Chouhan, he has launched a web portal for faster bank settlements of interest subventions, claims in agriculture, and a blog site which is in agriculture, and a blog site which is named Krishi Katha. It has also been launched for farmers. Shafali Verma scores fastest double century in women cricket test cricket. Shafali Verma scored the fastest double century in women's test during the encounter against South Africa. She scored 205 runs from only 194 balls. Sanjana Thakur wins 2024 Commonwealth Short Story Prize. Sanjana Thakur, she's a Mumbai-born writer. She's won the Commonwealth Short Story Prize for a story which is called Aishwarya Rai. This is about a woman who tries out possible mothers from a local shelter. She's the third Indian to win the Commonwealth Short Story Prize. Following the other two that we have are Prashar Kulkarni. This was back in 2016, and then we have Kritika Pandey. This was in 2020. So she's the third recipient of this prize. Now, this has brought us to the international segment, and here this is the only update that we have for the day. The IMF, it released an AI Preparedness Index dashboard ranking of 174 countries by their readiness to adapt to AI globally. This ranking, it categorizes countries into three groups. So the three groups are low income, emerging markets, and advanced economies. Singapore leads as the most prepared country for artificial intelligence, followed by Denmark and the United States. As far as India is concerned, it is NEM. It's in the category of emerging market, and it is ranked at the 72nd in the entire world. So you may keep a note of this ranking. So this has brought us to an end of our TNA. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day ahead.